Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video I'm talking about moon squaring Pluto in the composite chart, or the Davison relationship chart. So, squares to the moon, or hard aspects to the moon in the composite chart, show that there's tension in the emotional components of a relationship. The moon in the composite chart can show how we relate to each other emotionally. And also, it can show kind of like the safe haven of the relationship, or like the home life, and whether or not you are like each other's safe space and sanctuary, at least emotionally, right? So, with this square, it can show that there's difficulty there, there's tension there. This is a square aspect. So, it tends to be that this relationship is more emotionally volatile. Now, it might not be something that you notice right off the bat. The composite chart can be something that as you exist in the relationship more long term, it becomes more and more obvious that this is there. But even at the beginning, you could sense in this relationship that there's a bit of emotional unsafety with each other. Now, if there's other Plutonic themes in the composite chart or in the synastry, it could show that those themes are making both of you, and even especially the woman. There is some books that say that the moon in the composite chart is how the woman feels more, or the feminine polarity in the relationship more, and the sun is how the man or the masculine polarity feels more. I think there might be a little bit of truth in that, but I also think that in the composite chart it is just both of you, and it is just like the emotions of the relationship. But it can definitely show that one or both of you gets triggered very easily by each other. And this aspect could show that one person or even both of you are trying to exert some sort of power over each other, or control over the other. And it could be because of that feeling of unsafety. Like, there is this quality of like difficulty in dealing with these emotional triggers that come up, because this is a moon Pluto aspect. This is a Plutonic relationship. It's going to be very triggering. And in this case, it shows that there's a lack of ability to deal with those triggers in a calming or soothing way. It's more common with this aspect to attack each other and be fighting, and this relationship can show that there's a constant level of tension. And you might even feel like quite early on that you just won't be able to relate emotionally or have the same type of joys, or what one of you needs to feel emotionally fulfilled might not be what the other needs to feel emotionally fulfilled. And you might get the sense of that early on. And if the rest of the composite chart doesn't look so favorable, or if there aren't other easier aspects to smooth this out, you might just realize this might just be too difficult. Now, if there are other really good aspects in the composite chart, and this is just, a small part, maybe this is like the only Pluto square or something, and, the rest of the aspects are showing more harmony and compatibility, then, this one you might be able to deal with. And the people that are going to be able to deal with it, that I have seen deal with it in a more long-term sense, are heavily Scorpio energy, or Plutonic, or their moon Pluto themselves. So people that are more comfortable and familiar with moon square Pluto, like if you have natal moon square Pluto, or natal moon opposite to Pluto, or even moon in water, or Scorpio energy, Plutonic energy in your natal chart, this is just normal. This is just what you're used to. This is like, if you had a relationship without this aspect, it would probably be boring. So there are certain type of people that are more used to this moon Pluto tension, and they really get off on it. They really like it, and they're attracted to it, and so it can work. But it still shows that there can be some battles emotionally. There can be struggles for control. There can be major disagreements, at least as far as like with what you do individually to make yourself emotionally soothed. The other person can take issue with that and think it's wrong or think that it's, not good. So this is an aspect that doesn't really promote emotional harmony and safety and like domestic peace, like living together. Um, Unless there's a lot of other really nice aspects to the moon that are, making up for this square, but usually it's going to show that, yeah, the way that you go after your moon needs is sort of in conflict with this relationship. And that can lead to fighting and tension. And this is the kind of aspect that you'll see in relationships that can be toxic, unfortunately, or relationships that break up and make up a lot. And the on the positive side, I will talk about the positive things. I do think any aspects can be overcome, you guys, like if two people want to work on it. So I don't want it to sound too negative, but I just want to like kind of tell you the underlying themes of what I've seen or what goes on with this aspect, right? But the benefit of it is that the emotional intensity is so high, probably even higher than with the easy aspects, equal to the conjunction, if not even more, with the square, that it's one of those unforgettable connections that, like, when you're good, it's so good and it's so deep and it's so intimate and you love each other so much. And it can even be Moon Pluto aspects, especially in the hard aspects, can show a smothering. Like, you cannot bear to be away from each other. It's so intense, it's so deep, it's so intimate. And so that's, one of the benefits is that it will be really hard to find another relationship that equals the level of emotional intensity. And you do really have a good psychological insight into the other person. You do have a telepathic bond with this square in the composite chart. You really know what the other person is feeling, but just with the square, you sometimes, if you are not in a good place yourself emotionally, which sometimes this relationship will make you not in a good place emotionally, you can sometimes use your psychological insight into this person to hurt them. And I have seen that, and that's why this aspect can be really toxic. And don't get me wrong, you can see a harmonious Moon Pluto aspect and people doing the same thing. So it really is a lot like that saying, like, it's not what you're given, it's how you use it. But it is more likely with the square that you're gonna use this plutonic energy that you have emotionally together to hurt each other when you're not feeling good, when you're not feeling safe, which is what this relationship can make you feel is unsafe at times. So what you really have to decide is like, okay, this relationship, it is what it is. It contains this aspect. I might need to do things on my own, separate from my partner, to make myself feel emotionally soothed in order for this to work. And, being okay with both of you having these different methods and not judging the other. I mean, provided they're like healthy methods, I don't mean like being addicts or something, and that's where you get your soothing from, but like letting each other have those emotional needs met maybe in other ways, because you're not always going to be that safe space for each other with this aspect. Sad but true. And I mean, if you really, really work on yourself and, work on the relationship, maybe at some point you will be able to be that safe space. And, sometimes with the opposition, you can see that like half the time you're the safe space and half the time you're like the place of chaos and hell. With the square, it could be similar. It's like you have to make a conscious effort to be that safe space. If you love your partner, you want to work on this and be able to, be that emotional soothing influence on them, which sometimes it's hard with this aspect. It can really show that the relationship internally feels like a battleground, and it's a stressful, volatile thing. But yeah, on the good side, there is such a high level of emotional connection and emotional obsession, even, yeah, not being able to be away from each other. And you really do have the potential for profound transformations and growth, and letting go of old emotional habit patterns that are no longer serving you. Like, it can make you better. It can, well, Pluto in a square to the moon is more likely going to force you to change, and you probably will resist it. But the person that you become after can be a lot stronger and a lot more powerful too. This relationship can awaken the power within you in a more forceful way, but nonetheless, it happens. You're forced to. So the area of life that this is going to take place, you want to look at like the house of the moon and the house of Pluto to see where the tension is, and also how you can resolve it, or at least accept that there's tension there. And just by knowing that it's going on, knowing this is happening, it's really beneficial. Like when you're in a relationship, or even in any type of relationship that you have this aspect, you're going to feel it. It's going to be less intense and probably more manageable in friendships or other types of relationships, but there's always going to be that air of like emotional intensity and even fear of each other and fear of the relationship at times. But just knowing it can help you so much, because you'll know when you're doing it. You'll be like, oh, we're doing that moon Pluto square thing again in our composite chart. Okay, take a few breaths. Okay, make a choice. Do I want to stay in this relationship? Do I want to hurt this person, or do I love them and want to make them feel safe to express their emotions and be vulnerable? And you have to like make that conscious choice with this aspect. So yeah, I'd love to know your experience of this one. If you've had it in your composite chart, was it like this? Was it not like this? Let me know in the comments. And sending you all the love, you guys. Thank you for the request, and keep the request coming. We'll talk soon. Okay, bye.